do you hear that? I swear, man, it sounds different when we come live at 8 o'clock p.m. Central Time compared to 7. I think the tunes just hit a little different, but it could also be that pre-roll that we got here. So either way, the tunes are rolling. We got the show rolling. We got Jill in the house right away. She never messes around. Appreciate you stopping by. Danny, what's up, man? Thanks for swinging out as well. Looking forward to tonight's episode, getting caught up on some interesting news across the U.S. And the cannabis realm. Unfortunately, a slower week for news on the political side in Wisconsin, but nonetheless, a lot going on out there. So, looking forward to getting us caught up on that. Heath, thanks for stopping by. Appreciate it, man. It's going well. Hope your evening's going well. Happy Friday to everybody. Liza, you're commenting as yourself, which is fine, but I think you want it to be under the account. That's my wife. She rocks. So quick shout out to Higher Love for sponsoring the podcast. Really appreciate everything they do for the movement. As far as working with us, hooking up with the discount. I got the code right above you. Great folks up there. Make sure you check out their products. If you're heading to the UP, there's a reason they call it Higher Love. It's lovely. It's lovely. Jill says, I got the sweatshirts and love them, Bobby. Hey, great to hear. Glad we were able to get you that little. I told him, I was like, this lady, she don't mess around. Can we do like a little extra for the order? They're really cool down at the screen printing shop. So they ended up upgrading Jill's to the zipper hoodie, and they put some stuff on the back. It was super dope. We might have to get those in the shop. So appreciate everybody stopping out. Let's get the man in here who's always great at chopping it up when it comes to anything, but especially cannabis. Mr. Phillip Scott, what's going on, buddy?
What's good, Beans? Hello, community.
Hey. You're behind the smoke screen there. He's got the smoke screen.
Ooh, I got to get one of those big puffer things.
There you go. little. That's pretty dope, man. Pretty dope. What you got over there, Phillip? What are we enjoying this evening?
Let's see. It's called Peppermint Mints. I don't know.
Ooh.
It's a new one we're trying out. New little flavor. It's real smooth. And on the back end of the mouth, like a bourbon would, it's got the minty left in there. It tastes real good.
Ooh. So it does it clean your teeth as well, like with all that mint going on there? Clean your breath up a little bit?
Maybe.
Somebody's got to take care of that. No. Speaking of the products still here in Wisconsin, shout out to Ignite Dispensary as well. Appreciate them being a part of things. And I missed you down on the bottom when I was going through the whole thing here. So happy Friday from Ignite Dispensary as well. The rock. What do we got here? Looks like Liza's putting some stuff in the comments. Appreciate that, honey. We got the link to Higher Love. But let's get going with some news. There's some crazy stuff out here, man. I swear, some of this, if I wasn't pulling it up from a website I trusted, I would say you might think is made up because it's getting crazy out there, folks. Let's get this thing ready here. We got windows. Yes, we want to share a window. Not that window. We want this window. All right, here we go.
Ooh.
So we've got, let's start with this one here, boss. We've got 3 GOP senators that are telling the DEA not to reschedule cannabis. And I've been hearing a little more about this reasoning behind it lately, and it indeed is what this is about, and it is pretty interesting, which is they're worried about the treaty that we signed in 1961. Phillip Scott, are you worried?
No.
Are you worried about the treaty we signed in 1961?
No.
If I go into a little more into it here, the senators argue that the DEA has a duty under the CSA to ensure compliance with U.S. treaty obligations under the Single Convention on Narcotic Drugs, and therefore a decision on rescheduling cannabis should not be driven by the favored policy of the president who directed the rescheduling review, but rather based on proven facts and scientific evidence, as well as international treaty obligations. Now,
isn't the United Nations like one of the biggest pushers right now to try
that's what I'm saying.
We'll take your treaty, man.
Right. And maybe we need to update the treaty. I mean, they went into a little bit more here. Cannabis is controlled under the Single Convention, which is not surprising given its dangers and health risks. And the United Nations International Narcotics Control Board has fiercely criticized efforts. I like how they get so like scare tactic-y, like the war on drugs. It's always like just terrible. fiercely criticized efforts to legalize cannabis in other countries as a violation of the treaty, the senators wrote. Like, it was here so what they referenced, it looks like they cited a article published in the Journal of Heart Association that referenced a study in which researchers found that adults who consume cannabis daily had a 25% higher odds of having a heart attack and 42% higher odds of stroke than people who didn't use cannabis at all. Let's dig into this article because I found that hard to believe. What are we talking about here? Maybe smoking. Like I could see a heavy smoker having some issues. But let's see what this one says here. We've got methods and results. Yeah, how did you test this? We assessed this association of cannabis use, numbers of days of cannabis use in the past 30 days, with self-reported cardiovascular outcomes, okay, and multivariable regression models adjusted for tobacco use and other characteristics in adults 18 to 74. We repeated this analysis among non-tobacco smokers. Wait, what? Why are we talking tobacco?
You see what I mean? What did they do here? And did they give them like cannabis in a bowl? Did they give them cannabis rolled up in tobacco paper? Because the
Where'd
tobacco
the cannabis come from?
exactly.
Was it CBD flower? Was it regular flower? And there's a lot of stuff in here about tobacco. What? Okay, we're gonna try a cheat method. This is what I got to do sometimes. Hey, Mohican, thanks for stopping by. Appreciate you, buddy. I always like to. ChatGPT can just kind of read through a gizmo for us. So let's say review facts or give us bullet points because this sounds like a bunch of mumble jumbo. Bullet points from this article. Because I don't know about you, but right so far it sounds like it is a little skewed in as far as what kind of information I would take from this without going too far into it. Oh, I can't look at it due to restrictions. Well, something's up, man.
That's whack.
Right? They probably did that on purpose too. Don't let them.
Yeah, they don't want us to use our AIs to help crack their system quick here.
Make them read it. Jesus.
Or make it where you can't just quick scroll through it 6 seconds. Attention.
Well, like, what is this? Well, we're going to look into that. But either way, I think they're grabbing at straws here. And when it comes to the treaty, so the senators say they call attention to the past reliance on single convention treaty obligations to reject a previous rescheduling attempt that was initiated in 75. Now, when you're talking... I mean, back then, I don't know that there was any other place that was legalized at the time or studies that had been done to prove, this is different. We've come to the time in the day and the age where we have information showing what cannabis can do to help people, the amount of people it helps across the world. And we're going to go to this treaty is outlined back in 1961. Bro, that is 65 years ago, 63 years ago. That is frustrating.
It's a long time ago.
It is. Well, here's the official document that they sent too. Oh, they had to put United States of America on there, make it look like they care.
Well, what's crazy to me when you look at all the continents around the world today, there's so many countries on all these different continents that are legalizing hemp or cannabis in some form. How can you try to base something off of a treaty that all these other countries, if given the opportunity, would probably back out of because they've already legalized?
Right. No, I felt that, dude. Interesting one for sure. Moving on to the next interesting news. This one was pretty. I feel like I can believe this one. Only 1 in 10 U.S. adults say cannabis should not be legal at all. It looks like 50. This is again according to a study from Pew Research. How many people was it in this? Man, I read through these a little bit, but then my recollection isn't as hot as I would like it to be. But it was quite a few folks that they checked with. I feel like 1 person out of 10 thinking it shouldn't be legal at all. I could see that. But from the lack of education, you're out there in the boonies, you haven't had a chance to get caught up, and you're still hooked up on that 61 peace treaty that's out there. But thankfully, it looks like only 30% said it should be legal for medical use only, while 60% were saying that it should be for medical and adult use. I feel like those numbers are starting to come up. I feel like a few years ago it might have been a little heavier towards the medical only side, but I think we've seen with a lot of states that have gone legal, with the medicinal side. I mean, there's just a lot of extra strings with it, and don't get me wrong, like if it's a good bill and it's medical first, that's one thing. But I just feel like if you were taking a legit approach to this, you'd be looking at both sides of the ball. What's kind of your take on that, boss? Should we be looking one way or the other? Or
I think we need to go full rec, but at the same time, if they deschedule and the insurance companies change their premiums and now cover the medicine for the people, I mean, the medical program could be a good benefit at that rate
sure,
because I can get my medicine, I can get it covered. But unless that changes, which, they're probably a big proprietor of one of the reasons why they're federally not descheduling, because wait a minute, now I have to pay for that, another prescription that they already don't want to pay for.
right?
Or people's half of their medicine now.
Hey, no, exactly.
So I
Just
think you want to go full rec, but I mean, if those availabilities come open for medical, I mean, it's a good conversation.
sure. Well,
But
and like looking at Michigan's trend in medical compared to rec, you can see over last year the medical just kept steadily declining, and I feel like it was probably just people like I would doubt that there's a lot there's not a lot of people that are actually just, oh, I don't need my medicine anymore. I feel like a lot of them are probably just like it's not worth going through the hassle to get the med card to go through all this, and they're just able to get it recreationally, but using it as medicine. So it would definitely be an interesting topic of discussion to see where they're at as far as that goes. When they asked the people in this poll, they asked them about. Oh, here, let me pull the screen back up. How do I get it back up there? There's a button somewhere. Boom, there we go. How Americans view the effects of legalizing recreational cannabis. 52% saying it's good for local economics. 17% saying bad. Makes the criminal justice system more fair and no impact. That's interesting. They're very close. 42 say it'd be more fair, and 38% no impact. I think we got to be honest. I think there's going to be some impact from all the petty crimes. Well, I consider them. When I think of petty, I think of like it wasn't that big of a deal, but obviously getting a second offense in Wisconsin is a very big deal. So that's an interesting take on the state of these people's education.
well, I mean, the private prison system in Wisconsin's whack too. I mean, they make so much money off the commissary. Like, of course,
Right.
they want to keep people on petty crimes locked up, so they can keep their commissary money coming in. They can charge 5 minutes for $5 for a minute conversation to call your family. Like, the more people you got locked up, the more revenue they're making on the back end.
Right. Felt that. Oh, I missed a comment or two here. Pete says, get some black ice. It's far from ice. Roger that.
Ooh, spicy.
Jill says everyone needs to get with the new day's age. Completely agree with that, Jill. And then let me get this banner off here for a hot minute so it quits covering us up. There we go. Looks like decrease, no impact. This would be for legalizing. Where do you see it affecting the use of other drugs like heroin, fentanyl, and cocaine? Looks like the majority voted no impact at 42%. 28 said decrease, and 29 said increase. I can again kind of see the general public, unfortunately, seeing that. I think sharing stories like Maddie, shout out to Maddie and him overcoming dealing with some of this serious stuff, and finding the green and serene route. I'd really be interested in trying to find a way to better help some of these people that get caught up on some of this harder stuff, to be able to help them get off of that, because it definitely shouldn't obviously be in the same category. When it comes to how Americans view the effects of legalizing rec, makes communities 21% say more safe, 44% say no impact, and 34% say less safe. What's your take on that? Where would you vote?
I don't know. I think it's gonna make it safer, but these numbers are kind of crazy, and I want to see the data where they pull all these numbers from.
Yeah, like where these people live and stuff.
Yeah,
Because that would be interesting. I thought there was.
both parties.
Oh, here we go. That'd be interesting. How we zoom in.
Do the
Control.
zoom.
Zoom, zoom, zoom. Which zoom, zoom. Oh,
Much zoom.
Whoa. We zoomed too much. What happened here? There we go. All right. Large age differences in both parties in views of legalizing for medical and rec. So it looks like the younger generation seems to be more Dem leaning, as they call it, lean Dem. It looks like 81% agree with it. Oh, so there's our big holdup, boss, which is kind of what you would expect. So 65 plus, only 28% of Republican people who lean Republican or are Republican feel that legalization should occur for medical and recreational. So that definitely appears to be what, and I can see that because that would be the group that was raised by their parents who were being educated on the war on drugs, the reefer madness. And
So let's look at it like you would think of like a farmer. So the average farmer in America typically will farm till 72, right? So if the average age right now is 65, that's holding us up 7 years,
right.
and they're at retirement age of 72 and out of there. Really?
Yep.
Times that by 2 and 14 years. So we got 7 to 14 years before this group that is in our way
Right.
would hit that age of technically hitting 72 like a farmer to retire.
Yeah.
Usually when you hit that point, you don't really care that much anymore. So that's what I'm trying to get at. So
it does. I can see that being a thing, right?
That number
like,
can definitely swing. And then what's interesting too is like they only have hard Republican and hard Democrat, but they didn't put the moderate and the progressive in the middle. And those two are typically more willing to work with us that lean more the moderate progressive route than hard left or hard right.
Nope, I would agree with that.
Data.
Right. Nope. Good point. Did they break down? I can't remember if they broke down who was actually doing this survey. Let me see if I can find. I don't see like a large number that tells me how many people did it, which is interesting. But I think it's interesting to look at because that, again, kind of attests to that. Because I don't know about if you have any grandparents around yet, but man, it is hard to tell them that they were taught something wrong and to try and educate them. They're usually the ones educating us or kind of sharing their wisdom with us. So I can definitely see that being kind of a tricky part in trying to get that last hump. But the thing is, with us being as far along as we are, like only 1 out of 10 saying that it would be a negative. Does it matter if we have 10 out of 10? I feel like it shouldn't. I feel like if you got that 88% say that it should be legal for medical or adult use, it should be done. There's no question in my mind about it. Like,
That's
right?
If it's over 3/4 the data, it makes complete sense.
Okay, enough of this one.
And then we still got 3 knucklehead Republicans out there that are trying to say, "Oh, we can't do anything." What?
Right? No, it's terrible. The treaty, man. Well, how about this, man? Nebraska lawmakers debate a bill to put 100% tax rate on hemp and CBD, with some proposing legalizing cannabis as revenue alternative.
So these folks, instead of doing their job and wanting to write a law to allow them to have or cannabis, like to sell and produce and whatever, they would rather come after our hemp farmers and go, "Oh, you guys are selling THCA. You can't do that." No. So we're going to take 100% tax profit. It's going to put everybody out of business. All they're going to do is cripple their own market. So is that the real game plan, to then cripple the market and then turn around next spring and legalize it so then the rich corporations can come in and get the couple licenses? I don't know.
Well, no, dude, it's just silly to me. Why 100% tax rate on anything that doesn't have a tax already? That just tells me you're here to piss somebody off. It's like somebody pissed in your Wheaties. That just seems so stupid. Like, I hate to say it, but like here, while the bill's sponsor now says in response to criticism about the 100% tax rate that it's not set in stone. No alternative came up during the lengthy floor discussion. I swear, dude, I've never seen something that just feels like so many people that are on the political side just guess. Just, oh, well, if we do this is going to happen. Like, where do you come up with 100%?
It's not guesswork. I mean, somebody had to guide them to that number. Somebody.
Right.
Whether it was a lobbyist or whatever, I don't know. Somebody guided somebody to that number. And it's interesting because a lot of these Midwest states, their agriculture committees actually have a lot of say in how they propose and do these things. So it's probably somebody on their ag committee that was just like, nope, can't get in the THCA market. I'm just going to tax it.
Right. Or yeah, something very similar to that. That's the only thing I can think of. They're talking here. He noted that Colorado, for example, made more than 280 million in cannabis tax revenue during the last fiscal year. Yeah, but they didn't. What? That doesn't mean you got to catch up to them on your hemp sale. Mohican says, "In the wisdom of the past, the truth does lie, but it is this truth they wish to deny." That's pretty good point there. Diane says, "Well, I'm going to be 56 this year, and I'm all game for medical and rec. Let's go." That's what's up,
Good.
Diane. Jill said, "Did you read the Minnesota Post on cannabis?" I did. I think we got that one coming up. Jill's always good at sending me over that stuff as it drops. And then through the end of 22, said, what do we got here? That the tax would not apply to FDA approved CBD products such as pharmaceuticals, Epilodox, nor would it apply to hemp dietary or fiber products. Well, that's wonderful. It shouldn't to begin with, but again, you're 100% tax. I think these guys need to go take a hike, in my opinion. After the committee vote that she's 100% opposed to the bill, claiming the overall proposal would be the largest tax increase in Nebraska's history, right? It's got to be. I highly doubt anybody went 101 or more percent on something before. This guy just said, "I'm going for the record, though. We got to hit at least 100."
This is almost as bad as the medical bill they wrote in Wisconsin.
No kidding, right? Maybe Voss is Nebraska's his backup plan, maybe. This was one I wanted to read into, didn't get a chance to look into, but the headline grabbed my attention. Missouri revokes 9 social equity cannabis business license for out-of-state companies. Some of the licenses were connected to a Michigan company who recruited out-of-state applicants through Craigslist, which I found, I wanted to see if they had a picture of it. I can only imagine where they got that. But so essentially there was 48 social equity cannabis license issued in October. 8 were dispensaries linked to out-of-state groups, and 1 was a wholesale facility. And it looks like Canna-News is the Michigan company that secured 2 of the 16 licenses in Columbia and Arnold. Both licenses were revoked. State records show Canna-News was connected to 104 out of the 1,048 applications that were entered into a lottery selection for the dispensary licenses. An investigation by the Independent in October found applicants thought they were partnering with the Michigan investor, but in reality signed agreements requiring them to relinquish all control and profits of the business. That's one of my fears, man, is like when we talk about doing things right, we can't let that happen. Like that's crazy, man.
Well, I know like some of the bills and things, the 10-year window, like if you get the license and you have to be from Wisconsin and that type of thing, that 10-year window really helps mitigate some of this. But like at the end of the day, if in Wisconsin, when we write our stuff, like whatever department's in charge, if it's DACAP or whoever, like they better be ready to dig in and figure out what is what and where this money's coming from, who you're funded by. Like, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. Are they going to come back and go, hey, we need to see everything, your property lien, like everything that you owe out there. We need to see it.
Right.
Do you owe some guy down the street $1 million because you sharked it and now you owe him 20 points a week? Like that type of stuff. We don't know.
Right. Like what's actually happening here. They've got, it looks like they had a similar issue in Missouri. I had just read it and then I kind of spaced out here for a second looking at the other side of my screen. Another company that used the strategy of flooding Missouri's lottery with applications was an Arizona-based consulting firm called Cannabis Business Advisors. It sounds nice. It was connected to more than 400 dispensary applicants, including 6 winners. All 6 of the group's licenses were revoked. That's where, because you finally start to get some momentum, you finally get to, you get some licenses out there. But again, I feel like there's just certain things that are almost common sense. So you got to expect this to happen, unfortunately, with how excuse me, crazy. The whole like, this isn't like any other industry where there's been people doing it for a long time and there's been families around that do it, or it's just like all of a sudden there's this new market and a lot of people deserve to be in it, but they want to control how that happens. And you open the door for, okay, we rolled it out. Now you start digging. Oh God, how did we roll it out? And then you're like, you just keep, it's just a big mess. Like this has to be such a cluster because now even if you were reached out to by one of these companies or whatever, you can't tell me that every one of these deserves to have their license revoked. There's got to be some folks that are still, well, I guess it doesn't have to be, but don't you think some of these people legit earned, setting up and putting the time and effort in, and all of a sudden it's just gone? Like, I'm not saying it's just a mess, bro. How do you fix this?
What's crazy to think about is like, if I was running this application office, I would be like, okay, I want to see your last 10 years of finances.
Sure.
And like, if you've shown revenue and growth and things like that through life, like cool. But like, if you just came into $1 million last week, like that's kind of suspicious. It's a little suspicious. You know what I mean? But it's also hard to do that too, especially with like the Bitcoin and, the digital currency that's kind of moving around out there.
Yeah,
now.
that's a good point.
It's also very hard to track that because like, how do you know I don't have 100 coins that I bought at $60 a coin 15 years ago or whatever it is, and now they're worth $72,000? I think they were this morning a coin. Like, you don't know that. I put it on the thumb drive and put it away. Like, there's just things like that out there that makes what we're talking about. It's gonna be very hard.
Yeah, it's man, it'll be
and
interesting.
What happens is like, what if I lived in Illinois and you lived here, Bobby, and we're brothers, and we've owned a small LLC together, and now all of a sudden, like, hey, I'm gonna dump $4 million into the LLC, but you're my brother, so it's good, and it's on the family farm,
right?
Just as an example,
that's a good. Yeah.
What are they gonna do to prevent that?
Yeah, this is gonna be interesting, man. It looks like they said in light of the revocations, the state will add 9 more licenses to this round, which means there will be 57 licenses, 24 being dispensary licenses available instead of 48. Licenses are expected to be issued in July. I think this will be something to kind of just watch. I feel like, unfortunately, this is going to be a thing that, like you say, I don't know how you fix it. I think it's going to be something that we're going to have to try to figure that out.
Well, it's messed up because this sounds like this program was designed to help people that needed help to get out of whatever system they were in and change their life and things. So you just screwed over 9 other people that had a legitimate chance to change generational wealth for not only themselves and potentially their family.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
It sure is, man. It sure is. I've got to add that to the list of things to try to figure out. Jesse Ventura, man, he's the former Minnesota governor, launching cannabis edibles brand. I guess the politicians are getting involved now. Launched his own brand on 420. It's probably a good marketing idea. Partnered with Retro Bakery, a Minnesota Black woman-owned business in Brooklyn Center, to create hemp-derived products. While his website doesn't list his products, there's one photo of a bag of 10 gummies called the Lake Street Collection. Yeah, it's not terrible. I like it. We have a after partnership venture started chatting at the legalization event in August. What do you think, man? You think we're going to see more people coming out? I mean, Tyson seems to be doing pretty good. Cheech and Chong making a comeback at seeing their hemp products all over the place. It makes sense in a way that, just like I think Jordan was probably the first one to really start the whole like brand recognition because of a person's name thing. This is something that's going to stick around, don't you think?
I do, especially like you had a huge following if you're, governor. Like, a lot of people know who you are, and if you did a good job for, the community and things, people might buy the product. And I do like that he partnered with somebody within the community.
Yeah.
That needs to partner with some people and get things done. Like, I don't know. I think doing it that way I can respect that. They're doing something not only for themselves, but to help somebody else in the community as well. I think if they're doing it for themselves, though, it might be a little tougher.
Right. Felt that.
I think it's going to be a little weird. I think down the line, especially if you've had people that have always told us no or voted no, and then we find out that they're launching a line or things like that, or if their money's tied into a future cannabis business.
Sure.
Like, at that point, do we just say thanks for getting it done, or
or
do we secretly on the back end start to bash them? Like, you blocked it for so long, and now you want to be a part of it?
Right.
How do you handle that? I don't know. Let's ask the community. If you guys got some answers on that, that'd be dope.
That would be dope, man.
How do
Would
we
be dope.
handle that? If legislatures that have been a pain turn around and are invested in it.
Right.
I know. I heard. I think it was Governor Doyle, one of the retired governors. I think in 2018 he planted like I think 30 or 40 acres of hemp somewhere. I don't know what ended up with it or anything like that, but I know he planted it in the ground. So I know that if he was willing to do it, now we're reading the governor, one of the ex-governors of Minnesota is willing to do it. It might become a trend. Maybe they're all just like, let's give this thing a shot. I don't know.
Right. Like something, man. Just enjoy it. And it looks like I would like to look into just I'm always interested in how cannabis helps so many different people, so many different ways. But he is quoted as saying, "Cannabis saved my family's life, and now it's time for me to return it to the cannabis world." It'd be really neat to find out what his story is. If you guys a number, man, you see you're very well connected, fella. Maybe we get him on here, share his story. Let's hear
We can try.
it.
We should call the collective first. That'll put them on the path.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. He says, "This isn't Jesse hype. This isn't a quick cash grab or anything. This is building a legacy with Jesse to give back to the people who've always followed and who have loved Jesse. We're just a little ship making waves. Jesse just helps our ship get a little bit bigger." Oh, this is a lady with the company. So we can make a little bit bigger waves. That's awesome. Love it. I think it's neat. I think people need to get involved in it. Legitimately get involved in it. I feel like it's just such a cluster that sometimes you don't even know who's on first, bro. It's like
like you said, like I think what you said before, like you're playing chess without half the pieces.
yeah, right, exactly, dude. Just silly, straight up silly. Hawaii, man, Hawaii's making some noise down there. The lawmakers advanced a bill to expand their states. Get out of here. To expand their state's cannabis decriminalization law as the border legalization hangs in the balance. This is pretty interesting. They did announce separate legislation on Thursday that would expand the state's current decriminalization of cannabis by increasing the amounts of the substance for which people would not face the threat of jail time and reducing certain financial penalties. In the current form, the bill sponsored would specify that possession of an ounce of cannabis or less would be subject to $25 civil fine. Under existing law in Hawaii, possession of up to 3 grams carries a $130 fine. Dang, 3 grams, bro. That's you're out at that point. Between 2 ounces of cannabis, meanwhile, would be punishable as a petty misdemeanor, up to 30 days in jail and a $1,000 fine. What? This is important. Crazy. Yeah.
I mean, it gets some of the fines, but
you sure do.
Community service, like what?
Well, and it looks like here they describe some of the changes in the amended decrim bill as minor technical fixes, while also incorporating provisions of the House bill and feedback. Honolulu wrote in strong opposition. I don't know, like, how do you figure out when you're talking about decriminalization? Where do you set your limits? I feel like it's just, like an example of where this is such a mess is the state of Wisconsin, because you get a fine for possession in a different county, not even just states, different counties, and it's all over the board. Some are just a misdemeanor, but either way, you get 2 and it's a felony. Like, this is just such a clusterfuck, man.
Well, I mean, Wisconsin's judicial system is definitely built. You better have a little money to pay for an attorney.
No kidding.
Like, I've watched these attorneys, man. I watched one guy he got pulled over with a couple joints in his car, and the attorney literally walked up. He goes, $2,500. The guy writes him a check. He walks up to the judge. They whisper something back and forth, and they go, case dismissed. What the fuck?
Sadly, I can see some shit like that, dude.
It happens in Dane County all the time. I don't care if I piss off the attorneys.
Sadly, I believe it. This one was interesting to see. You want to see which take was on this. The federal OSHA officials host event on cannabis industry worker protections as more states legalize. This one was talking about Even as cannabis remains federally illegal, 2 representatives from OSHA are set to present at a webinar next month about the federal agency's latest guidance and enforcement priorities for protecting workers within the cannabis community and the growing number of state legal markets. Aren't you excited to get OSHA involved?
Oh, I'm so excited. Are we
Well,
going to start putting little helmets on each nug in the field too?
well, and they make it sound like they're in it for the right reasons. Like, well, it says these workers may also become exposed to additional biological, chemical, and physical workplace hazards associated with producing cannabis. So I feel like that would be, you got to know about what different chemicals are and that kind of stuff. But it would be interesting, man. Who should be in charge of this? Is it OSHA? I think OSHA needs to talk to somebody.
OSHA might need to talk to somebody. I don't know.
It says right here, the cannabis industry is a little bit complicated for federal agencies because cannabis is still illegal at the federal level. Yeah, I mean, this is probably what happened. Massachusetts cannabis worker who died after collapsing at a facility operated by the multi-state operator Trulieve. The company paid OSHA $14,500 to settle the case. And they agreed to conduct a study to determine whether ground cannabis dust is required to be classified as a hazardous chemical in the occupational setting.
I do know that OSHA is no joke. So
Right.
in 2020, during COVID, a processor actually up in the Green Bay area, they had an employee that they were running the processing rig with the ethanol or whatever, and it gets super cold, and they touched it, and their hand didn't have their rubber gloves on, so it froze and got the real bad frostbite and stuff. Of course, they go to the doctor, medical claim, and OSHA comes and knocks on the door, and they go, "Cease operations. We're doing an investigation." And red tape the building, they shut everything down. And of course, we're like, "No, you can't do that." The processor's calling me like, "Phil, what are we doing?" I'm like, "Don't do shit till they do something."
Right.
So OSHA did whatever they did. The sheriff shows up, and they ended up cutting the power to the building, so we couldn't run the building until we let them to do the investigation.
Well, that's
So
pretty
OSHA
intense.
ain't no joke.
If OSHA shows up, you better answer the door because they're coming in, he says.
And they shut the building down for 17 days while they did the investigation. They obviously processor lost revenue and everything else involved. And they ultimately end up getting fined like 15, 16 grand just right on the head. It sounds familiar.
Yeah, no kidding. That's crazy, dude. I don't know exactly what the answer is, but again, I don't think it would be too hard to figure out, getting the companies to getting the right people in it to help figure out and set out some guidelines. You want to protect the workers, obviously, but let's be legit about it, I guess, is my only concern there. I feel like OSHA likes to definitely shut shit down.
That's why we need the cannabis union when we get this stuff legalized here. That'll
100%.
be push. I'm a big pusher on that union stuff.
100%, man. We had Delaware bill to expand medical access heads to the governor's desk as the House passes cannabis banking measure. It looked like they had both bills were sponsored by Representative Ed Ozinski, who championed that legalization legislation that was enacted into law last year. This is pretty cool. It had the medical cannabis expansion measure that's being sent to the desk would remove limitations for patient eligibility based on a specific set of qualifying health conditions. Instead, doctors could issue cannabis recommendations for any condition they see fit. And then I don't know if you saw, but they were the ones that also came up with this. Patients over the age of 65 would be able to self-certify for medical cannabis access without the need for a doctor's recommendation. What say you, Phillip?
I think that would be cool.
Right?
I don't know. I think it all goes back, in my opinion. Sure, let's do all that, but let's get insurance to cover it then.
Right. Yeah, that would be dope. I want to see what they talked about on the banking here. As many know, national banks and credit unions do not serve the cannabis industry because they are concerned about potential penalties and prosecutions. A local bank is better positioned to serve the industry because they are regulated by state law under which the state's legal cannabis industry also operates. That makes sense. Given the current set of rules, I think, right?
Yes.
The
So like my
state.
accounts are held by a state bank, my personal bank accounts and everything like that for
Yep.
that reason.
Okay. That would make sense. It now goes to the Senate for consideration. Clarified. So it looks like the design to clarify that banks, credit unions, armored car services, and accounting services providers are not subject to state level prosecution simply for working with cannabis businesses. I think that'd be a very smart move, and probably very much appreciated in the cannabis industry. Yeah, I like it. I like it. We need more of that.
Well, and what's crazy to me, so in Mary Fikowski's first bill like 2 years ago, I think they proposed like $3.5 to $5.5 million to build and reconstruct a new money intake facility at the IRS, at the state IRS office. So they're willing to
Okay.
drop. Of course, they want to get their tax money, so they're willing to spend like $7 million to build this intake, hire new guards, be able to drive in the money truck, unload it in this facility. Money truck drives away, and then they have the facility to count this cash because
Sure.
the banks won't handle the money.
Right.
So it's like, you guys, let's drop $7 million real quick here to take our money, but
Yeah, of course they will. Fuckers. They're always down to take. Got that right. This would be interesting. Thankfully, given the current states of politics, I don't see us having to worry about this. But how about this, man? They finally pushed through a bill in Virginia, gets to the governor's desk, and he vetoes the cannabis market bill. It's quoted as the proposed legalization of retail cannabis in the Commonwealth endangers Virginians' health and safety. A push
2 years. 2 years he ran and said, "I'm going to do this. I'll let you keep doing it."
A push to establish legal cannabis market in Virginia is officially dead after Glenn Youngkin vetoed legislation on Thursday. Virginia has allowed adults over 21 to possess and cultivate cannabis at home since 2021, but the law required another vote to implement commercial sales, which failed after the Republicans won the House of Delegates later that year. So basically, he's saying it does not eliminate the illegal black market sale of cannabis nor guarantee product safety. What an idiot.
So let's just veto it, so we'll just grow the black market even more. Great. I mean, ultimately, all he's doing is driving down the cost of the black market because now more people are going to want to sell it. So I don't know.
What a piece of work. But it looks like, what's he got here? The cannabis sales bill was poised to be used as a bargaining chip by Democrats in budget negotiation over one of Youngkin King's top priorities, a $2 billion stadium deal to bring the Washington Capitals and Wizards to Northern Virginia, because that's obviously more important. What a putz. What an absolute putz.
Hey, at least they're still in session. So we got to give them that.
That's fair. They're still working somewhat, even if they are silly.
It's negative, but yeah.
Right. Pro legalization advocates, including the state's medical cannabis providers, will no doubt continue their efforts to establish sales in the Commonwealth in the next legislative session. Meanwhile, DC and Caps Wizard owner inked a deal that would keep the teams in the district until 2050. Holy, that's a contract extension. 26 years. Sounds like he's bought and paid for, in my opinion.
Sounds like it.
Where do they find these people that they get into office, man?
We all choose to put them in there, and then I think it was Putin. Putin said they've got the guys in the black suits walk in as soon as they get elected.
Oh,
Tell
right.
how it really runs.
Right. Well, like
4 presidents now.
Right. Well, it's like Matt says here. This is Voss's Wisconsin. If he says no, it's a no. That is how it is set up over here. It appears.
So we got people in Birdman's district that can beat him. I mean,
we need something down there in what cities are those? Where's this guy located? I know it's the southern part of the state there. Let me see if I got a map here. Because yeah, we need a. I'm about to go bang on doors or something, man. We gotta. I don't know. Something's got to happen.
Well, we need to find somebody that can run against him, but then we also got to find somebody that can raise campaign funds to outbeat him. So that's the hard part. Like, we can find people that want to run against him, but can we find that individual that has that, I don't know, good sweet talking voice and things like that can get some of that donor money that he's getting to help feed him? And I think that's a big issue too. Even if we found somebody, how do we defeat the U lines and individuals that donate to him?
The guy, yeah, the machine that's been built over the time, unfortunately.
Well, unfortunately, friends with everybody in Nebraska, so maybe we should start following the money back and forth. I don't know.
There you go, something, man. And then the last one that I got here is Minnesota lawmakers propose a raft of changes to state law, including home grow and equity adjustments. I want to see what they were looking at doing over here. They're saying that there's sweeping laws that need fixing, quote unquote. So it looks like instead, or here we go. Such a word might be interpreted as endorsing talking points that the bill, along with much of the work of the 2023 session, was rushed and that mistakes were made. Oh, no. Instead, top sponsors of House File 100 say changes they are proposing, as well as others filled by other lawmakers, are expected and routine. The law will be modified, not fixed. So what do we got here? He's got it's a 100-page proposal. Okay.
It's a lot of fixes.
That is a lot of fixes. Their own work will likely be a fix to the OCM bill. Long list of changes would adjust how so-called social equity licenses are distributed, change the ownership ratios for such license holders, bring the hemp-derived market regulation under the Office of Cannabis Management sooner, and put numerical caps on each type of license rather than let OCM decide how many the market requires. Many of the changes were suggested as ways to get the same end point as HF 100, but with less risk of litigation. So they want to replace the point-driven system for distributing licenses to enter the new market with what the agency is calling a vetted lottery. That sounds interesting.
So they're making it way more restrictive all of a sudden.
Yeah. Only applicants who meet social equity criteria and demonstrate that they have the knowledge and wherewithal to run a business would be entered into the first lottery. Later in the process, other applicants would enter a different lottery for remaining licenses.
So is the state going to offer social equity training to run a business so then you can show them a certificate?
Yeah, what? I'm sure you'd have to pay for. And the lottery would eliminate potential subjective judgments by staff that could expose the law to litigation. Briner said that the current law, based on the accumulation of points, would likely benefit the well-capitalized and political savvy and expose the state to lawsuits that could delay the rollout of retail sales next spring. Oh, God.
So I work with Red Lake Nation in Minnesota, and when the state of Minnesota wrote these original laws, they left it up to the tribal nations to write their own language. Luckily, Red Lake was ready. And on top of that, and I work with Red Lake Nation Chippewa Hemp, which was one of the first hemp stores in northern Minnesota, I think, and one of the first, I think, hemp stores on a reservation in Minnesota as well. They've obviously still have their hemp products, but when they wrote that language, the Red Lake Nation was very fortunate to have language written and put in place, so then they could easily switch over to cannabis, full recreational cannabis. So in Red Lake in Minnesota, the stores there are able to sell you hemp products and cannabis products because the tribal nation had their shit together.
That's smart. And that's how it should be, in my opinion, with trying to figure out. I mean, I think we can all agree there should be some more cohesiveness to the hemp industry. But where is it but figure it out so that when when full cannabis is legalized, I want to see both stick around, don't you?
I think so. I think they need to stick around and see what happens. I don't know. Like I said, there's a lot of stuff that goes good and there's a lot of stuff that goes bad. I think there's more good with recreational, but with the medical stuff, like I said, if insurance is going to cover it, that's a huge relief for a lot of people. So I don't know if it's going to ever happen, but I know there is talks of that. The other thing too with Minnesota in that article, it's interesting that they restricted until spring of 25 any retail licenses for full rec in the state of Minnesota. And one thing that they're doing to combat the THCA sales of just the people that are opening stores to sell THCA right now is they're not really coming after the flower and the edibles, but they're coming after the concentrate. So your THCA diamonds, because even if converted in their testing, they look at it as like it's not below 0.3 total THC if it's a full 1 gram concentrate.
Sure.
So like your dabs, they're coming after. I've been told that they've been going into stores and buying the 1 gram cartridges and testing them, and then serving letters that you can't sell those anymore. So that's something that the state of Minnesota's health, whatever that runs the medical program, or the programs, yeah, that they're going after, and they're targeting actual stores right now. So yeah, there's that part.
There's a lot out there, man.
So that makes it tough, but like the drinks and the edibles, it's easy because it's diluted. When you take that full solution and whatever and send it through, it'll come back below 0.3. So they can't really touch those, and they know that. So they're going after them concentrates. But I just wanted to touch base on that.
No, that's good to know, dude. Have you heard any news in the state of Wisconsin this week on cannabis?
Other than it was Melissa's birthday.
Shout out to Senator Agar. Happy birthday.
I saw you guys did a big shout out there, and I hope people left a lot of great comments. But I mean, nothing really on our end in Wisconsin. I know that on the hemp side of it, there's some people out there trying to offer some future contracts for growing some hemp grain. So if you're interested in that, I can try to get you in touch with them. But, beyond that, nothing really. Just trying to do the thing. It doesn't sound like we've had any major bust or arrest around the state. So that's a good thing,
No, for sure.
It's submit to the DEA asking how many registered labs that they have now in Wisconsin. So hopefully we can get an update on that.
Oh, that'd be good.
More than 6,
Sure.
Remove that monopoly of those 6 labs that think they run it all. So
right. Yeah, you got to watch the damn monopoly players. They always try to take that shit. Jill says I need to change it from the 0.3%. Had you heard? I had heard for a little bit there about possibly the Farm Bill getting up to 1%.
There's a lot of big push on that. They have not decided anything publicly, not that I'm aware, but I do know that they are going back and forth on the issue and trying to figure it out. I've heard 1%, and I've also heard 0.8. So there's that type of stuff. I'm cool with the 1%. 1% would be awesome. It'd give us a lot of flexibility and things to grow, especially when we're growing that flower. Sure. And the other thing too is like those roadside tests when they pull over and they stick the flower in the thing and they break it on the side of the road and goes blue. Like we can just change the ratio on how that works if it's 1% THC.
Okay.
And they'd be able to snap it on the side of the road and tell you, oh, it's THCA, THC, just off that basic little test. So
that'd be dope.
That 1% will give you a lot of leeway for other things that people, I guess, don't even maybe realize.
Sure.
The other thing too, I always wanted to throw out there. I always told you the day, and when you look at the industry as a whole, there's 29 parts to it, Bobby. Yep. If you can figure out all 29 of those parts, you can really flow on how everything happens. And those 29 parts include the federal government to the state level. So it's not just within the state of Wisconsin that all those pieces have to kind of flow and work to be able to move the industry.
No, felt that.
And a lot of people don't understand, like when I say, well, the EPA is involved in cannabis. What? The EPA, Environmental Protect? Yeah, well, those are the people that tell us what we can and can't spray on things. And until they determine what you can actually use and not harm and provide and get people sick, the EPA actually has a say on this. Like, it's just, those are one of the pieces that I talk about,
All the pieces, man.
It's all connected, all of it.
Right. Well, we got to figure it out. Looking forward to getting a chance to stop by you next week, figure out a lobbying day. Yes. We got to keep making noise. We got to keep sticking together. Appreciate your time on here, man. Appreciate chopping it up with you as always. Appreciate the folks stopping out on Friday. This beautiful Friday night. Have them talk to Canada, says Jill. There you go. Get the Canadians involved. Let's go. What was I saying? Good night. Oh, I hope everyone has a good night. I'm going to go enjoy a little THCA pre-roll before bed. Whatever you guys do, be safe. Matt says, realistically, when do you see possible legalization? Phillip, what's your take?
I think it's going to be fall 25. I really, really do. Like I said in our last podcast together, they've always joked it would be 25, and we're on that timetable.
Right. It does fit with how things are shifting around and moving at this current time. But damn, it'd be nice to get it done in 24 somehow. So we'll keep trying. We'll keep hoping, keep praying, and keep making noise.
And
Either way,
honestly, what if our state's really waiting to see how this next farm bill rolls out, so then they know they're
yeah,
not going to get sued from the federal government any way possible.
yeah, that's a good point. That is true, man. Well, stay tuned. We'll figure it out. Well, I'll be here. Hopefully, you'll be here. We'll be trying to figure it out, and looking forward to it, man. So we'll let everyone get back to it. Have a great weekend if you got family. Enjoy your time with the family. Have a happy Easter if you celebrate that. But either way, just take some time with the family. Relax, do your thing. So everybody have a great night. We're out of here, guys.
Travel